AITA for sleeping with my sister's husband after finding out he was already cheating? I recently discovered my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, had been having an affair. I found out completely by accident. I was borrowing my sister's laptop because mine was being repaired. She had left her email open, and a message popped up from an unknown number. The message was explicitly sexual and referenced a meeting the previous week. I unfortunately read the whole thing. I closed the laptop and walked away. I needed to think. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table. My mind raced. I replayed the email in my head. I considered the implications. My sister seemed happy. She and her husband were planning a vacation. They talked about having children. This affair would ruin all of it. I wished I had never seen the message. I considered deleting the email and pretending I did not see anything. That seemed impossible. I know my sister. She always finds out the truth eventually. This way she would think I was complicit. I decided to call my best friend. I needed an outside perspective. I explained the situation to her. She listened without interrupting. My friend told me I had no good options. She said whatever I chose would hurt someone. She suggested I talk to my brother-in-law first. I should give him a chance to confess. If he did not, I had to tell my sister. My friend reminded me that my loyalty should be to my sister. I thanked her for listening. I felt slightly better, but I still dreaded the situation. I hung up the phone. I knew what I had to do. I did not know what to do with the information. I could not just act like it never happened. That felt wrong to me. My sister deserved to know the truth, but I worried about the consequences. Telling her would destroy her world. Not telling her would allow the affair to continue. I thought about confronting my brother-in-law directly. I could demand he tell my sister. He might lie or deny the affair, even with the email as proof. I felt trapped. I have not spoken to anyone about this. I needed to process it myself first. I considered talking to a close friend, but I worry about gossip and word spreading. I do not want my sister to find out from someone else. This is a delicate situation. I need to handle it carefully. I also do not want to cause drama within my family. I spent the next few days in a daze. I went to work, but I could not focus. I tried to act normal around my sister. I did not want her to suspect anything was wrong. I thought about confronting my brother-in-law. I imagined different scenarios in my head. Each one ended badly. I worried about the potential fallout. I know my sister can have a bad temper. I did not want to be the cause of a huge fight. I also did not want to be accused of interfering. My family is very private. I eventually decided to do some digging. I felt like I needed more information. I created a fake social media profile. I used it to look at my brother-in-law's activity. I discovered he had been exchanging messages with another woman. The messages were explicit. I also found photos of them together. It was clear they were having an affair. The messages spanned several months. I found dates that coincided with family events. I felt sick. My sister and her husband have been together since college. They have 2 young children. He is everything to her. I immediately closed the laptop and tried to pretend I had never seen anything, but the image of the message burned in my brain. I debated whether to tell my sister. On one hand, she deserved to know. On the other hand, I knew it would devastate her. She always talked about how lucky she was to have him. She painted this picture of a perfect life. I knew this would shatter her world. I felt trapped. I did not know what to do. I considered talking to someone else first. Maybe my mother could offer advice. She always knew how to handle difficult situations. But I also worried about involving more people. It was my sister's life, and I did not want to betray her trust. This was not my secret to share. I had to tell her myself. It was my responsibility now. I just wished I could avoid it altogether. I would do anything to protect her from this pain. I practiced what I would say. I rehearsed different scenarios in my head. I imagined her reactions. I tried to prepare myself for her anger, her sadness, her denial. I knew she would have a lot of questions. I needed to be ready to answer them honestly. I also had to be strong. I could not fall apart in front of her. She needed me to be her rock. This was going to be the hardest conversation of my life. I dreaded it. I worried constantly about how to even begin the conversation. What words could I possibly use to soften the blow? I considered writing her a letter, but that felt impersonal. I thought about telling her in a public place, but I did not want her to make a scene. Ultimately, I realized there was no good way to deliver bad news. It would hurt no matter what I did. I decided I needed to be direct and honest, even if it caused pain. She deserved the truth, regardless of the consequences. I just hoped our relationship could survive it. I eventually decided to visit her. I drove to her house and tried to act normal. We made small talk about work and the weather. I felt the weight of the secret pressing down on me. My hands started to sweat. I took a deep breath and just said it. I told her what I knew, as gently as I could. I watched as her face changed. I waited for her reaction. Her eyes widened, and she didn't say anything for a long time. She just stared at me. Then she started asking questions. She wanted to know every detail. I repeated what I knew, trying to answer honestly. She asked about when I found out and how I was sure. I explained the situation as clearly as I could. I told her about the evidence I saw. I also told her how sorry I was. I said I didn't want to hurt her, but I felt she deserved to know the truth. The conversation went on for hours, and it was emotionally exhausting. After the conversation ended, I drove home. I thought about what happened. I wondered if I did the right thing. I felt a little relief that I finally told her, but I also felt immense sadness for her pain. I knew this would change things between her and her husband. I worried about the fallout. I considered what my role should be moving forward. I knew she needed time to process. I decided to give her space and wait for her to reach out to me. For days, I was torn. I couldn't eat or sleep. I felt guilty keeping such a huge secret. I confided in my best friend. She encouraged me to tell my sister, saying she would want to know. My friend said I would be complicit in his betrayal if I didn't say anything. Finally, I decided to tell her. I invited her over for coffee. I tried to be as gentle as possible. I explained how I had accidentally seen the email. I braced myself for her reaction. I did not want to make her feel bad. I just wanted her to know that I knew. I thought she deserved a chance to explain. I hoped she would be honest with me. I did not want to keep secrets from each other. I thought we were past that. I wanted us to be able to talk about difficult things. I thought we could work through anything if we were honest. I did not expect her to take it well, but I also did not expect her to deny it outright. I was surprised by her anger. I thought she would be more apologetic. I did not expect her to lash out at me. I felt hurt by her accusations. I was not trying to ruin her marriage. I was just telling her what I saw. I did not know what else to do. I thought showing her the proof would make her understand. I did not want her to think I was lying. Her reaction made me feel like I had done something wrong. She was initially in disbelief. She kept saying I must have misunderstood. Then, she became angry. She accused me of making it up, of trying to ruin her marriage. I showed her a screenshot of the email. The color drained from her face. She started to cry. I stayed with her for hours while she processed the information. She was a mess. She kept asking why he would do this to her. I tried to comfort her, but there was little I could say. The next few days were chaotic. She confronted her husband. He initially denied it, but eventually admitted to the affair. She kicked him out of the house. He moved into a cheap motel. I continued to support my sister. I helped her with the children. I listened to her vent and cry. I felt terrible for her. I also felt guilty for being the one to deliver the bad news, even though I knew I had done the right thing. I tried to be there for my sister in any way I could. I picked up the kids from school when she had appointments. I brought over meals so she wouldn't have to cook. I helped her sort through her finances and figure out a budget. I knew it wasn't much, but I hoped it made a difference. I worried about her constantly. She seemed so lost and broken. I encouraged her to seek therapy and offered to go with her if she wanted. She eventually agreed to try it. I made the initial call and scheduled the appointment. I drove her there and waited in the lobby during her session. I found myself in an awkward position. I felt obligated to be supportive, but I also needed to maintain boundaries. I explained to my brother-in-law that he needed to speak directly to my sister. I told him that I was not a mediator. I said I would not pass messages back and forth. I knew that anything I said could be misconstrued or used against me. I suggested he write her a letter, outlining his feelings and intentions. I also emphasized that she needed time and space to process things. I knew that pressuring her would only push her further away. During this time, my brother-in-law started contacting me. He would call and text, begging me to talk to my sister on his behalf. He claimed he regretted his actions. He said it was a mistake and he wanted to make amends. I refused to get involved. One evening, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. I was surprised and annoyed. I told him to leave, but he insisted on talking. He pleaded with me to convince my sister to give him another chance. He said he loved her and the children. He said he was willing to do whatever it took to fix things. I told him he should have thought about all of that before he cheated. I reminded him of all the times my sister had supported him. I listed all the sacrifices she had made for their family. I explained that his actions had consequences. I said his empty promises meant nothing to me. I asked him how he could be so selfish. I told him he did not deserve my sister. I considered telling him my sister had already moved on. I thought about revealing she was already seeing someone else. I knew that would crush him. I decided not to say anything, at least not yet. I wanted to see him grovel a little longer. I enjoyed watching him squirm. I told him I would think about what he said. I asked him to leave. I was still angry at him for hurting my sister. I was disgusted by his betrayal. As he was talking, I had a sudden, impulsive thought. I realized I had the power to inflict pain on him in a way that would directly affect him. I wanted him to feel a fraction of the hurt he had caused my sister. I told him I would consider talking to my sister, but only if he did something for me. He looked at me expectantly, willing to do anything. I told him I wanted to sleep with him. I know it sounds bad, but it was the only thing I could think of. I wanted him to feel as disgusted as I did. I wanted him to see how wrong his actions were. Maybe if he crossed a line like that, he would understand the magnitude of what he did to my sister. I did not want him to get away with it so easily. I was angry and this seemed like a fitting consequence. I know it was manipulative. I know it was wrong on my part too, but I was not thinking straight at that moment. I was operating purely on emotion. I felt a surge of power as I watched him squirm. A part of me felt guilty for putting him in that position, but the anger outweighed the guilt. I also felt slightly vindicated that he was willing to do it. He was truly desperate, and that gave me some satisfaction. He was shocked. He hesitated for a moment, but then he agreed. He said he would do anything to save his marriage. We went into my bedroom. He was shocked. He hesitated for a moment, but then he agreed. He said he would do anything to save his marriage. We went into my bedroom. The encounter was brief and unsatisfying. I didn't enjoy it. It was purely an act of revenge. I wanted him to feel dirty and ashamed. I went home after that happened. I sat on my couch for a long time. I stared at the wall. I thought about what I had just done. A wave of nausea washed over me. I got up and went to the bathroom. I threw up. I brushed my teeth and washed my face. I looked in the mirror, but I didn't recognize myself. I felt hollow. I went back to the couch and sat down again. I replayed the last few hours in my head. I hated the whole situation. I hated him. I hated myself even more. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned for hours. My head was spinning. I kept thinking about his reaction. I wanted him to be hurt. I wanted him to feel the pain I felt. Now that it happened, I realized that wasn't the way. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse. I had crossed a line. I didn't know how to go back. I knew I had messed up badly. I had to figure out what to do next, but I had no idea where to begin. Afterward, he left my apartment. I immediately regretted my actions. I felt disgusted with myself. I had sunk to his level. I had become the kind of person I despised. The next day, I told my sister what I had done. I expected her to be furious. Instead, she was strangely calm. She said she understood why I did it. She said she had imagined doing the same thing herself. She said she was not mad at me, but at him. I did not know what to say to her. I had thought she would yell at me. I had prepared myself for anger and accusations. Her reaction threw me completely off guard. I did not understand how she could be so understanding. I asked her if she was sure she was not angry. She told me she was disappointed but not surprised. She said she had known for a while that her husband was not a good person. She also said she knew I was hurting. She thought we both made bad choices. We talked for a long time that day. I told her everything that had happened between me and her husband. She listened without interrupting. I explained how hurt and angry I felt after I found out about his affair. I told her it was a terrible decision to sleep with him. I wanted to hurt him the way he hurt me. I should have handled the situation differently. She told me she understood. She forgave me. However, I still feel incredibly guilty. I cheated with my sister's husband. Even though he had already cheated, it feels like I made a bad situation even worse. Some friends that know about the situation say I am not the bad person, since my brother-in-law was already a bad person, so there could be no harm. Other friends are horrified that I could have done that to my sister. I do not know if I am actually a terrible person. I feel like I should have been the bigger person and not acted out of revenge. AITA?